Y'all, my 5-year-old hijacked my boba mic, and now we cannot find it. But don't you worry, because I made a new one. And this one looks more legit. Look, it has glasses like me. But look at the other side. Happy boba! Nerdy boba. Happy boba! Nerdy boba. Okay, I should stop this. Hello. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, the past couple of weeks we have been talking about decolonizing messaging. And the first video was all about what that even means, what might that look like, do we even need to decolonize our messaging? If that's of interest to you, go back a couple videos and check it out. And I know the word decolonizing either fires people up or scares them away or just makes them uncomfortable. The second video, which we did last week, was all about the common messaging and marketing tactics that might actually be rooted in harm and how we take a different approach. So if you are someone who gets the ick from a lot of the things you learn about marketing and what you're told to do, what you're supposed to do, that's a good one for you. Today, we are talking about something I'm personally fascinated with and interested in, and really is the reason why I'm even here. And that is reclaiming our voices and telling our own stories. This is not just critical for the bigger culture, but it's also critical for your business and for building your brand. So if you're someone who feels like you've struggled to define your brand voice, or you've shied away from it, you're just not sure your brand voice is that clear, or it's where it needs to be right now, maybe it needs to be revisited, this is for you and a little more. Hi, I'm Justine, messaging strategist and copywriter for phenomenal equity and social impact driven women of color entrepreneurs. Here, and I just realized I put my mic down, but here to bring our brands alive with strategic messaging and storytelling that sells. Sip, sip. All right, get comfy because we're about to get personal. I want to start with a story about a client I recently started working with, because it got me really thinking a lot about how we show up in our messaging and how we show up in our business. And this new client of mine, she has been an attorney for 20 plus years. And while she's not leaving behind her practice, she's building something new, something much more personal, something truly impactful. Like I'm so excited for her, and it's very needed. But I noticed that as we were working together on some of her messaging, there was some resistance. And so I asked her, as women of color, I know that for many of us, myself included, we are expected to show up and sound a certain way in order for others to take us seriously. And I didn't want to make any assumptions, but I asked, is that what you might be feeling? And she said, yes, totally. And I just saw like an energy shift in her. Now, the deeper problem with this issue is that it dilutes our truth and it erodes away at our worth. And we are not going to let that happen or keep happening, are we? In business, what this does too, and how this shows up, is blandness in your messaging, a lot of sameness across your website, your socials, compared to others in your industry. And I see this especially a lot in businesses that are in industries like law, medicine, psychology, education. But this actually hurts your business, especially if you are building a business that is intended to have a positive cultural impact. Using the same fancy words and voice that everyone else uses does not help you stand out. It does not help your audience recognize that they need you. Like, you want people to come to your website, to come across your social posts, to however they come across you and go, oh, that's my people. You know, last year I was helping a friend look for an attorney. And so I researched some websites and I gave her a small list. I said, look, based on their websites, I really have no clue who might be better. There's some good reviews for these ones, but nothing really stands out. And recently I was looking for a new doctor and I ran into the same issue. When our stories tend to read like resumes, they don't actually explain anything. When I'm looking for a lawyer or when I'm looking for a doctor, I want to know who has my back. I want to know who I can trust, who I'm going to feel comfortable with. And that's what many folks are looking for in today's world when we're looking for who do we want to buy from, who do we want to work with, who are we going to trust, who are we going to trust to invest our own money in. This is why I always start with building out a brand voice with clients, because a brand voice guide is more than just defining your tone and style. That's actually some of the last things I think about when building a brand voice. And honestly, it's really deep work. That's exactly what one of my clients said to me. She said, "This is deep work. It feels like therapy." And maybe I should have been a psychologist myself. But it's not always easy reclaiming our voice. The thing is, it's not necessarily to just suddenly one day say, I am reclaiming my voice. I'm going to tell my own stories the way I want to, the way they should be told, the way that sets the truth free. Maybe some of you have run into these challenges too. I know I certainly have. Sometimes it just comes down to, do I even know my own voice? Is the voice I've been using me? Is it what I think I should be? Is it what I would like to be? Again, it's deep introspective work, but it can also just be hard to break old habits that we've sown for decades, like beyond just our professional career, but since we were little. And fear. Will I still be as successful if I just relax into my own voice? Will people still take me seriously? Or are they going to say, what happened to her? For those of us who've experienced trying to show up very buttoned up, very professional, and how society expects us to show up as professional, respectable, trustworthy women of color, that's a real survival skill. That is how we've survived systems that were not necessarily built for us. That is how we've just survived life. And it's really hard unlearning all these things too. I don't know about you, but especially as a parent, I am in a deep season, maybe whole era of unlearning things, breaking cycles, reparenting myself. And it is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I think unlearning things we've always been taught, we've always been conditioned to believe and do, that is hard. Am I depressing you now? Let me get out of the hard stuff and get into the good stuff. What I'm trying to say is that reclaiming your voice and your story, it's hard work, but it's not only a smart business strategy, it's also personal liberation. And the two go hand in hand. So if you're someone who regularly defaults back to your professional voice, if you're using fancy words that sound good, but might not actually have a whole lot of meaning to your audience, if you're someone who is just in a state of change, maybe it's time to revisit your brand voice. Whatever sort of stage you're in, or whatever point you're in where you might be just thinking, what is my voice right now? Because we all evolve, right? Our voices evolve as we do. It is not a define once and leave behind. It's a define once and redefine many times. So consider asking some of these questions. These are all questions I've asked myself, asked my clients. What's the fear you're feeling when you are thinking about letting your guard down? What's the worst that can happen if you start showing up authentically and as your true self? What's the best that can happen? Do you know your own voice at this point in life, at this point in your business? And if you could show up in a room, say what you want, how you want to say it, trusting that you already belong in the room, what would you say? Are there sides of you that you normally suppress but maybe want to bring out more? What are your top values these days? Personally and in business. Your voice is truly one of the most powerful tools you have, not just for marketing, but for building a brand and a business that reflects you and that helps create the future that you want. So I invite you to start listening to your voice again. Ask yourself some of these questions. Even if you're feeling like you might be comfy in your voice already, remember, our voice is constantly evolving with us on our journey. So it's important to always revisit to make sure that our messaging aligns with where we are now and where we're going. And don't be afraid to test the waters. Try out what feels good to you and take whatever fear you're feeling, give it a great big hug, and click publish, send, show up, speak into the mic. You really can't go wrong. And if you could use a little help teasing out that voice you know is inside you, maybe have a little mini therapy session with me, DM me, message me, email me, holler at me, share your favorite Spotify music list with me. Let's bring our brands alive with your voice. Now, stay tuned for our final video in this Decolonizing Messaging series, where we're going to talk about using our words and messaging to build a culture and a world that we want to live in and that we want to leave behind for our kids and future generations. All right, have a bobalicious day, and I will see y'all soon. Peace.